How about a yoga pants style waistband with a front fly zipper? A couple weeks ago, I did a tutorial showing how to do a yoga pants waistband on your favorite pair of jeans. And I got a few questions from subscribers asking about how to add that kind of stretchy, comfortable waistband to jeans that you can't pull over your hips if they're zipped up. Now, just to remind you, if you're going to take the waistband off a pair of jeans, take the zipper off, sew the center front shut, and then create a comfortable, stretchy waistband, the jeans themselves have to fit over your hip. So I have a tutorial for you if you have jeans with a waistband that's too snug, so you'd like to give yourself a little bit of comfort, but you also need your front fly so you can pull them on over your hip. In front of me, you can see I've already taken apart the waistband on these jeans, and if you need a step-by-step tutorial on how to do that, I'm putting the link to the yoga pants waistband tutorial for pull-up jeans in the description below. But basically what I did here was I took the waistband off two different amounts left to right. So if you look over here, I took the waistband off right up to the front where the loop is, the belt loop is next to the front fly, which is right here, right? And then on this side, I took it out only to the side seam. When you're thinking about taking your waistband off, what you want to think about is how much do you need to relax that snug waistband. So if you want to take it off and replace most of it with a stretchy, elastic yoga pants style waistband, take the waistband off right up to the belt loops in the front like this, and do it on both sides so you have a symmetrical look. If you only need to adjust the back waistband, and this would actually be perfect for somebody who always has a gaping waistband in the back, so maybe they are not too snug, maybe they're actually too loose in the back and you have to snug them up. So this can actually help you whether the waistband is just too tight all the way around or if you need to take up the loose gaping back waistband. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put on a soft, stretchy yoga pants style waistband on this single pair of jeans, but I'm going to attach it at close to front on this side and from the side seam to the back on this side. But just keep in mind you want to do one or the other. All right, so the first step is to take off the waistband, and you want to leave a seam allowance amount before you cut it off. So you can see I cut my waistband off. I took it out so it's near the belt loop here, but I left a little extra because I'm going to create a seam allowance there. And then again at the side, I took it out past the side seam, but I also left a seam allowance. So if I want to line up the seam for the back waistband, it'll line up with the side seam on the jeans. Take the waistband off, cut it, leave a little extra till you're sure, but you want to take it out a little bit past where you cut it because we're going to be sewing our new stretchy waistband to it. So that's the first step. The second step is I cut myself a knit strip. You want to use something that's like a bottom weight stretchy fabric so it's comfortable and it stretches and you can ease it on to the existing waistline of your jeans depending on what you're trying to do, and I'll explain that when we get there. But basically what I did was I measured the original width of my waistband because we want that to match. We're going to be adding it to our original waistband. So you can see here this waistband is 1 5/8 inch wide, so I cut a knit strip that is double that plus 2 3/8 inch seam allowances, so I have room to, sew it on. I'm going to just fold it in half, and then what we want to do is we want to figure out what the length needs to be. Now, if you're going across the back waistline and you're going to be attaching it at the side seams, and your goal is to make it snug, you want to create a back waistband that's shorter than your waistline, and you're going to stretch it on, and then we're going to put some elastic in there. So I'm going to use my existing waistline to figure that out. And before I do that, let me just show you the other component here. You're going to need elastic, and notice my elastic is 1.5 inches wide, which is 1/8 of an inch narrower than the width of the original waistband. So that's going to work out perfect for me to make a nice firm waistband in the back. So I've got my elastic ready to go as well. I just wanted to point that out. Now, if you're working with a waistband and you need a certain width elastic that's kind of specialty depending on what the width of your waistband is, I do carry 2-inch wide cut through sew through elastic, so it's designed to cut to any width that you like based on what you need. I'm putting a link in the description below for that if you're interested in checking out that elastic, because you can literally cut it out to any width you need. So happily, in my case, I just need the 1/2 inch wide elastic. It'll work out perfectly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn my jeans upside down, and I'm going to roll the waistline so I can see where I'm going to start sewing it. So I want to start sewing it at this side seam. And what I'm going to do here is I'm literally just going to line it up. I'm going to give myself a 1/2 inch past the side seam. And then I'm simply going to stretch it a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, because we want the waistband to be a little bit smaller than the waistline, but we don't want it so small that it puckers up the denim and makes it hard to sew. So basically, I'm just going to stretch this a little bit, and I'm just going to keep stretching it till I come around to where I'm going to end. Now, if you're going from side seam to side seam, you're going to stop here at the opposite side seam, give yourself an extra 1/2 inch, and then cut it. But I'm just going to go past that to my front, and again, I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch longer than I need here. So let's say I'm going to go to here, but I'm going to cut it off here instead. So I just gently stretched it around. This doesn't have to be an exactly perfect measurement, because remember, we're going to also be adding the elastic on the inside. So that will help us snug it down in the end. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to fold the bottom edge. So if I have it like this, okay, let's look at what's going on right here. I'm going to fold it up the 3/8 of an inch like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to sew it on to this waistband. And then I'm just going to align the knit band up with the waistband and the waistband facing like this, and I'm going to just fold up the other end so it matches like this. And I'm going to put a clip on the other end. Okay, so you can see I've got that pinned on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew across using a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. All right, so I've got my sewing machine set up, and I'm literally going to work from the denim side because I want feed dogs to help the knit go through the machine. So I'm just going to put my presser foot down here. I'm going to remove my first clip now that that's trapped under there like that. And let's take a few stitches on the back tack. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to press the seam allowance between the waistband and the waistband facing down the way it was pressed and top stitched. And I'm just going to stitch straight across. And then we're just going to continue right down to the bottom edge of the waistband here. I'm going to back tack. All right, now let's take a look at that. Okay, so you can see what we've done here is we've created a situation where we've sewn the waistband on like that, so it looks finished at the bottom there. And then the same thing on the inside. See how it matches and it's all lined up like that? We're going to do the same thing to the other side. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to bring it around to where the other side is, like this, and we're going to sew that side on as well. And I just want to make sure I don't twist anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it like this. I'm going to fold that up the 1/2 inch. Put my clip down. And then I'm going to reach around to the other side like this. And I'm going to fold that so it matches like that. And now we're going to sew this side on. So see, we've got it pinned to match. But before I sew it, I'm going to turn it, and I'm just going to double check. So see, I'm just turning it, and I want to make sure that this is straight, and you can see that it is. All right, so now let's sew the other end. And again, I'm going to put the knit against the feed dogs. So I'm just going to line that up like that. And we're just going to stitch along here. And then when I get to the front, the bottom edge of my waistband here, I'm just going to continue to stitch all the way to the bottom. All right, now let's look and see what we have. All right, let's look at and see what we have here now. We've got our knit strip sewn on to this side, and we also have our knit strip sewn on to this side. To sew this on, I'm not going to stitch it on like a traditional waistband. I'm going to top stitch it on. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to stretch it a little bit to the side seam on this side, just a little bit, and then I'm going to overlap it the 1/2 inch onto the waistline of the jeans here. Now I have to use traditional pins instead of my clips, but basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pin it like that. So you can see I've made a nice smooth transition from where I sewed it on to here. And then across the back, I'm just going to stretch it so it matches like this. And I'm going to walk into the middle with my finger to make sure I'm evenly distributing the extra. And again, I'm lining up the folded bottom edge with the stitching line that you can still see where I took the waistband off. Or just a little bit lower. I'm covering it that little bit because then it will sit the way the original waistband sat. So I'm just going to pin that on. And then you can see I've got extra in here, see? So I'm just going to pull it straight. And I'm just going to put a couple more pins here, like this. Okay, I'm just making sure my bottom edge is also folded under the equal amount. And again, I'm just gonna pin it in place like this. All right, so that takes care of the outside of the jeans, but remember we have to sew it on the inside as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a few more pins just to keep it all nice and attached. Normally I'm not a big pinner, but in this case I want to make sure that it's all on there really nicely. All right, so see, I've got it pinned there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it to the inside, and you can see, I can see my pins, right? So what I'm going to do is when I lay this side flat, I'm going to start up at the, where it meets here, and make sure I've got that nice right there. I'm going to pin from the inside now. I'm going to make sure my folded edge is lining up right and covering those pins, and that's how I'll know I have it, you know, agreeing with what I did in the front. And I'm going to pin here too, like this. So you're going to see what's going to happen is I can compare the position of this pin with the pin I have over here, because we want to make sure if I can catch the waistband front and back, then I know when I sew I will catch it front and back. So here I'm about 1/8 of an inch away. Okay, and my pin is right here at the fold, so that's going to be okay. Let me start on this side over here. Again, I'm just going to pin this to match. And again, I'm just going to stretch this side to the side seam, and then I'll stretch it across the back to make sure it's even. And I'm comparing my pins with my pins. All right, so as I'm pinning the facing side of my waistband down, part of what I'm looking for is to make sure that it will be at least as low or even below the pins from the front, because that way I will make sure I catch it on the inside when I sew it from the outside. The pins for the facing are really falling right at the fold. That means there's a little extra length on the inside here. You could also sew this knit strip on like a traditional waistband where you actually sew it on to the front of the jeans and then turn it to the back. But I want to try this and see how this works. I think this is going to work fine. Okay, so you can see I've got it pinned on the inside. I've got it pinned on the outside. All right, so I'm just going to adjust all my pins now to make sure I'm catching both from the front. I'm just taking out the pins on the inside now that I've got it double pinned, and I'm just double checking to make sure if I pin through both layers, I'm catching both layers. So it's almost like instead of sewing the waistband on here, what I'm doing is I'm pin basting. So basically, I pinned it on both sides so I could make sure both folded edges are going to match, and then I'm just taking the pins out of the facing side, and I'm just making sure now they're all in agreement. And I can work in little areas now just to fine-tune the position of both folded edges, you know, to make sure they're in agreement. And again, if you'd like to just sew this on like a regular waistband, you can totally do that as well. I like to try different things. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm almost at the end here. Okay, so I've removed all the pins from the inside. So you can see I've got it pinned on the outside. And then if I turn it around, you can see I've also got it pinned to the inside, and everything's matching. The next step, we're going to top stitch this yoga style waistband onto the waistline of these jeans, but we're going to leave an opening here at the intersection and on the other intersection here so we can insert the elastic after we've sewn the yoga pants style waistband on. So I'm going to start sewing like this, and I'm going to sew about 1/8 of an inch in. So I have to take out this first pin because it's literally underneath my presser foot here. So I'm going to put my presser foot down, and again, I'm just double checking to make sure everything's okay there. And I'm just gently stretching the knit strip to match. If you want to use top stitching thread here, you totally can. I'm just going to use the black thread I have in my machine. And we're just going to stitch around. And I'm stretching the knit strip to match the denim waistline as I stitch. All right, I'm coming to the opposite end, so again, I'm going to stop a little bit before the, the end here. Take out this last pin. I'm just going to go a little farther. All right, let's look and see what we have. I'm just going to zip them up here just for a second so we can see what the waistband looks like. So you can see here, I have a nice top stitched edge. And if I look inside, you can see I very easily caught it all the way around. And remember, I said I made sure that when I pinned through both layers, from the right side to the wrong side, the pin was a little bit farther away from the folded edge on the inside, so I'm sure I caught it everywhere, and it's actually pretty even. There's blue thread in my bobbin, so you can see, right? So now the next step is we're going to insert the elastic. And I'm looking at my elastic, and now I'm thinking maybe I need it to be a little bit narrower, but that's actually perfect because I can show you how my cut through sew through elastic works. So see, I'm double checking now, and I think I want to trim about 1/4 inch off based on ease of sticking it in there. So this is how this elastic works. See how there's ridges all along the elastic? If I cut along a ridge, it won't fray, and I could make it the width I need. So this is why I love my cut through sew through elastic. See how easy that is to work with? So I'm literally just following whatever ridge I started on. And I'm going to cut, approximately what I need here. I'm going to say that's probably plenty. So see, now I've got a skinnier piece of elastic, and it's not going to fray. See, isn't that cool? So now basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get you need some sort of wood bodkin or something to snake your elastic through. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on one side where I left my opening. So let's just sneak it through here. And the cool thing is, if you're working with a knit that has a little bit of a 4-way stretch, it'll make it really easy. Notice I'm having really no trouble getting this elastic through here. If you start to have trouble, maybe consider making it a little bit narrower. I think if I had used the elastic in the original 1.5 inch width that it would have been a little bit too wide. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to poke through. Let me see if I can get to the back of my bodkin without losing my tail. All right, so now I've got my tail right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in there inside the waistband itself. So this is why you need to leave a little bit of an opening. So I've got the elastic in there. Okay. So the end of the elastic is tucked. Let me just show you where it is. So see how it's tucked right there? So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to, well, let's stretch it a little bit farther. So it's a little bit more. I want to make sure I catch it. So I've got it overlapping this seam about a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to tuck everything back inside like that. And I'm going to pin through the elastic. So now I'm catching the elastic, and that will allow me to gently smooth it back out this way. And you can see if you're working with an elastic that is a good close width to your casing, you can see there really isn't going to be much room for it to twist. So you can see I've got this nice smooth situation going on, right? So I'm just going to stretch it until I'm happy with the way it fits. Like I would try it on, right? So see how that looks now? Okay, so that'll definitely take up the back if you've got a gaping back waistband, and I can pull it tighter if I need to. So see, I've still got my tail here. So like, let's say I wanted it a little bit tighter, I can draw it in a little bit and evenly distribute, you know, however much I need to get it to fit nicely. So what I would do is I'd pin it here, try it on, and then either tighten it or loosen it based on what I need. Because remember, I don't have to worry about it going over my hip anymore. You can make it fit your waistband comfortably, whether it's a gaping back waist or an uncomfortably tight waistband. You can see now, see how much give I have in this waistband? So the final steps to finish this up are to, you know, finally decide what your length is going to be. So let's say I'm happy with this length. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut off the extra, leaving about a 1/2 inch. So to make sure I don't lose my little tail now though, I'm going to put a pin right here to protect this end. I don't want it to snap into the casing and have to go search for it. So I put 2 pins right there. I'm going to tuck that up into there. And now this part of the elastic is relaxed because I stopped the stretch here, right? So you can see it's just hanging out in there really nice and easy. So now all I have to do is pin everything back in place and finish stitching the rest of this waistband. So I'm just going to put a pin there, and then I'm going to double check to make sure it's pinning. I'm catching the waistband on the inside, am I? Yeah, I am catching it there, but I need to lower this a little bit. Make sure I catch it. I'm going to put another pin under here to make sure. Now, if this belt loop is in the way, you can take it out. Okay, so I've caught it there and there. And then you're going to do the same thing over here. You're just going to catch all the layers back together. We're just going to finish top stitching it. So on the side seam side, you can see it's just a simple issue of just finishing stitching the waistband back on. On the other side, I might have to take the belt loop off. But basically, Make sure you catch that facing when you pin. So I've caught my facing. So let's just sew this back on, and let's see if I can sew it on without taking that belt loop off. Okay, so here we are on the belt loop side. I'm literally going to, I think I'm going to need to. So I am just going to use my favorite little seam ripper or seam remover tool from Kai. I'm literally just going to saw in here to get rid of this belt loop. So I can just take it off. I can't take it off completely because it's sewn into the waistband there, but removing the tack here will give me more room to push it out of the way like this. So I'm just going to slide this under here, push the belt loop behind so I can start stitching like right there. Okay, so I'm not catching the belt loop. The belt loop is right behind the needle. So I'm just going to stitch this. I'm going to stitch really slow because I'm going through all of the layers of the pocket piece, and I just don't want to snap my needle here. So I'm just going to stitch really carefully over that lump. All right, there we go. I'm going to shut that. Let's take a look. So see, I sewed it down, and then I can put my belt loop back. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this. And what I want to do is I want to sew the elastic on as well. So my elastic is, well, it's right here. Let's just sew right here. I'm just going to sew through my elastic. I'm sewing it a little bit away from the intersection of this just so it's not bulky, but now my elastic is securely attached. I can take out my pins. Right? And I can just sew that belt loop back on. And then on this side, this is the easy side, all I'm going to do is literally start over here. And again, when I come over this bulky area, I'm just going to be really careful. All right, now I'm over the hump. Okay. Then I'm just going to catch my elastic, and I'm going to sew on the knit strip side. So you can see the pin to hold elastic is actually extended on over here. So I'm going to stitch it a little bit on the knit strip side here. Okay. All right, let's see how this looks. Now you can see from the back that if I were just putting the knit waistband on the back portion of the jeans, you can see how nicely that would snug in a waistband that gaps, right? And then if you needed more comfort because it was too tight, you can see here I wrapped it around the front. You have a nice stretchy waistband for comfort. So this is really like a twofer. You can use it to relax a snug waistband, or you can use it to take up the gaping back waistband. So really this is a technique you could use for a few different reasons if you want to make your jeans more comfortable or fit better. Let's just take a peek on the inside. So you can see everything was caught nicely. It's nice and neat. Okay, and if you're having trouble pinning it on to the right side and then also pin basting it to the back and then switching all the pins to the front, if you think that's too cumbersome, you can always sew the waistband on to the jeans and then fold it into place and pin it and top stitch the waistband so that the inside is caught. Either way, this will work fine. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below and I will help you. I hope you're enjoying Fit Tip Tuesday videos. If you're enjoying my content, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me grow. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.